When I was 16, I started going down a bad path. My brother was a year older than me, but we were so different. He always picked good friends, whereas I always seemed to gravitate towards people that weren't the best influence. Cale's friends were all good students from good families that were pretty clean cut. My friends, on the other hand, mostly came from not so good families. A lot of absent parents, and my friends were really into drugs and alcohol. It wasn't so hard to get booze. We would stand outside a liquor store and ask people until we'd find someone to boot for us. We would pitch in and share whatever we bought. It started out just something we would do on the weekends, but then it got more frequent until it was pretty much every time we hung out. After drinking started to lose its novelty, we moved to drugs. We would buy marijuana from basically anyone who would sell it to us. I got really into that. I felt like it relaxed me and just made me feel better about things. I was smoking it several times a day at this point. It got to where I couldn't fall asleep unless I had smoked right before bed. When I would wake up in the middle of the night, I would have to have a puff so I could get back to sleep. I knew it wasn't good, but didn't care enough to change anything. All my friends were the same, so there was no impetus for change there either. As you can imagine, a chronic pot-smoking habit isn't cheap. I started to steal money from Cale's wallet. At first, I would ask to borrow from him, and he would lend it to me. But when I kept asking, and he figured out what I was using it for, he stopped giving it to me. I was desperate. All my friends were stealing from anyone they could find to come up with the funds for our bad habits. My mom never carried cash, so that wasn't an option. I had thought of getting a job, but I was too much of a burnout, and no one would hire me. One day, when we were picking up from our dealer, an opportunity presented itself. My dealer had asked if I would want to help him distribute, mostly around our school. I said, "What's in it for me?" He said, "Free pot." He had said the magic words, and I thought, why not? I started small, just selling to my circle, but then others got wind of what I was doing, and I got quite busy. I had to take more and more to school. I was kept in free pot and was more popular than ever. My dealer was even giving me a share of the money too now, which was great. The day it all came crashing down around me, I was not expecting it. I had picked up my usual amount the night before and took it to school with me. I always left it in my friend's car and sold out of there. When I got called down to the principal's office, I assumed it was the same issue, skipping classes. I plunked into a chair in his office and gave him my best, perfect student smile. He looked at me seriously and said we were waiting for one more person. A few minutes later, a police officer knocked on the door and came in. I felt an instant lump in my throat forming as I realized this was much more than just missing a class here and there. The police officer asked me if I knew it was illegal to distribute marijuana. I gave her a one-word answer of yes. My mind was swimming with details and wondering what was about to happen. She asked me if we could go down to my friend's car and open it up. We stopped by my friend's class and pulled her out. She unlocked the car for us. The police officer looked inside and asked her to open up the trunk. Inside was my backpack full of marijuana. The police officer asked us to confirm who was the one selling it, and I explained that it was just me and that my friend was only letting me use her car to store it. My friend instantly started crying and blubbering about how mad her dad was going to be. I was charged with the distribution of an illegal substance. That, combined with my terrible school record, landed me in prison, well, a juvenile detention center. I was to remain there for 1 year while I kicked my drug habit and served my time. My mom and brother came to visit me, but they both seemed like they had had enough. I told them I was clean and was going to do much better once I got out, that it was a new beginning for me. I'm not sure if I really meant it, but I knew it was what they wanted to hear. I had met a boy on the inside. He was so nice and understood everything I told him. My home life, my dad leaving, always being compared to my perfect older brother. Boys and girls were not allowed to mingle very much, other than outside time when we could walk around in a fenced area, play basketball, smoke, whatever. His name was Joe, and we started to spend as much time together as we could. We really liked each other, and I felt hopeful that I had found someone who would stand by me. We had taken to writing letters to each other. During exercise time, we would slip each other a letter. When we were back in our rooms, we could both read our letters. It was the highlight of my day, it really was. One day during our exercise time, Joe pulled me behind a shed, and we started making out. I had never even kissed anyone before, so this was a whole new world for me. In his letters, he started to talk about how he wanted to be inside me, my heart and my body. His words were very kind and romantic, and I fell for it hard. When we found ourselves behind the shed another day, we went all the way. It hurt, but I knew it's what he wanted, and I wanted him. We met like that whenever we could. 6 months into my sentence, I noticed I hadn't had my period for a while. I wasn't sure how long, but the nurse had noticed too. She ordered a pregnancy test, which, of course, came back positive. I told Joe, and he suddenly wanted nothing to do with me. He would ignore me during exercise time. And there were no more loving romantic letters. I felt like such a fool. I even believed Joe that him pulling out was just as good as wearing a condom. Boy, did I learn the hard way. My mom was called and came in with my brother. They looked across the table at me during our visit, and I couldn't even look them in the eye. Here I was talking about a fresh start during our last visit, and now, here I was, another huge mistake freshly made. We talked with the prison counselor and nurse about what to do. I obviously didn't want the baby, but my mom said getting an abortion was unnatural and wasn't an option. We agreed I would carry the baby to term, deliver it, and hand it over for adoption. The majority of my time spent at juvie, I was pregnant. I got bigger and bigger. As my due date approached, the nurse would come and visit me regularly. She would make sure I was taking my prenatal vitamin, check my blood pressure, my weight, and take my belly measurements. She said everything looked good, and that was that. One night I woke up with a wet bed. I called out and a guard came to see what was up. He called the nurse, who came right away. She took me to the infirmary and called the center's doctor. He was there a couple of hours later. It didn't feel like I was in labor at the beginning, but I guess it's normal that these things take a long time. Once the contractions started coming faster and harder, I knew things were really happening. The nurse told me that my mom had found a worthy family for adopting the baby, and asked if I would want some time with it once it was born before it was handed over. I said no, and that I didn't even want to know what it was or see it. I thought that would be best and easiest. I pushed and pushed and fought, and eventually it was over. I had done my duty and delivered the baby safely. Immediately after, the nurse wrapped up the little screaming bundle and scurried out of the room. She returned shortly after and told me what a good and brave thing I had done, and that I had made a wonderful couple very happy. Now I have this crazy story to tell people. I got pregnant in prison and have never seen my baby. I am trying not to let that time of my life define me, but that's pretty hard. I did turn over a new leaf and am now working hard to graduate from high school and think of my future. To watch more animated story videos like this, hit that subscribe button. And tell us in the comments section what you thought about this story.